Still not there yet.
Okay.
Okay, now we're live. Go ahead, Leslie.
Hey, how are you doing, Dale? Audience, welcome to Trauma to Love. This is Reverend Leslie Peters and my co-host, Dale. Introduce yourself, dude.
I'm Dale Hutchison, LLCAC Level 2 retired.
That's good. And we are here. Today's our first podcast, and we're both under the weather today. So if you like today, you're really going to love the future ones. But yeah. Oh, okay. So,
Go ahead.
Dale, go ahead. I don't want to take control
No,
of
I
this.
just want to say, talk about yourself a little bit, who you are, and how you got to where we are,
Okay.
briefly.
So, briefly, Reverend Leslie Peters, RN, and my background is in public health nursing. I have 30 years working with women in trauma, at risk pregnant women. And in 2017, I left work. Um, Actually, it was called to leave work. My life, you'll find, is pretty much a spiritual um, calling. Everything I do, I follow my intuition, and my message is truly about like the divine truth of self and us, and how oneness, as a kid, allowed me to thrive despite major adversity, trauma, and some significant challenges. And despite always being alone emotionally, I never felt like I was alone. And it was because what we'll talk about throughout these is the state of being that I lived my life in instead of doing allowed me to feel one with the world. And so that the world was my home and strangers were my family. And even though I was always alone, I never felt alone or unsupported. Um, and that's what else. I have credentials, trauma informed, sensitive, aware, spiritual nurse pioneer, thought leader, visionary, um, heart coherence practitioner. Basically, what I do, the very gist and simplicity of my unique gift I bring to the world is creating a safe space for people to experience feeling loved and accepted and seeing their own light, which allows me to see mine. And go ahead, Dale, on to you.
All right. My
That's a
name's Dale Hutt. Thank you, Reverend Leslie, and I'm glad that we got our first show off the ground, well, even though we're both. I'm in the hospital, so I'm not in the best of shape either. So anyway, welcome to the show. We're going to have a lot of these. Right now, they're temporarily on Mondays. We may have to change that, but right now they're Mondays at noon Pacific time. And we will be talking to guests. I've got one set up for us for next week. She will be here to join us and talk about her life and her traumas. And that's what we deal with. We deal with the traumas. What we want to do, I feel, is let you learn to love yourself.
yeah.
Before you can love anyone else, you have to love yourself. So,
And totally agree. And hopefully, what the way I live my life allowed me to see things differently. And so, a lot of experiences where I see my story of childhood trauma and adversity throughout life. I always saw it as a gift. And so throughout this too, I'm hoping that as the audience, you can feel free to text in and say, okay, how do I look at this situation? Because I'm really good at shifting perception. But first, we like to talk about the traumas because before you shift perception, you've got to validate what you're feeling in the moment, right? Like you got to see what is before you can shift it to what you want.
absolutely, absolutely. You have to verbalize it, and that helps get it out of the unstuck from inside of you. When you verbalize it, it releases that energy that you've got stuck to the universe.
Yeah.
And the universe converts it to love, which comes back to us as love.
Right. And Dale and I met because I think I reached out to you. I don't remember who reached out to who, but
I don't remember.
yeah, I'm pretty authentic. Everything I do, teaching, everything is in a conversational format. And that's part of what I see in the world today, and I've actually experienced now, is people who aren't comfortable talking about negative stuff, or whether they want to pretend everything's okay or not. But that's, in the years to come, that's going to, I think, be the deciding factor, whether we do this together and we may struggle, but we won't suffer, or if we do this on our own and struggle and suffer in what's, yeah.
My background is counseling. I'm a certified addictions counselor, level 2, retired. I retired in 2015 due to my health issues. I've had chronic heart problems since 2003. I've been fighting it for 20 years now.
Mm.
And so I come more from a background of spirituality and God or the universe or the higher power, however you wish to acknowledge it, is up to you. That's
Yeah.
your choice. But it needs to be acknowledged and accepted that there is something there that's more powerful than we are. And
Yeah.
I am a recovered alcoholic. I have 34 years of recovery. So that trauma I understand. I'm an abuse survivor from my childhood, all kinds of abuse. If it was abusive, it happened in my family as a child. And I'm a traffic victim. So I've been there, done that. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing that you have to hide from yourself, even. And that's what we do. We hide it from ourselves. And that still blocks the light from shining forth in love.
Yeah. And I guess, look, the past few years, people have always, what's funny, growing up, we have beliefs and we say they're false beliefs. Well, my two were I'm alone and I'm too much. And when I went on this self-discovery in like 2018, I realized they weren't false. They were true. I am too much for people who, right? I didn't, yeah, and I'll explain that later on. But I had traumatic brain injury once too that neither I nor anyone else knew about. And so, with a lot of the learning challenges, I was too much because no one knew what was going on with my brain. And as far as I'm alone, in reality, we all are. I mean, the purpose of life, right, is to come home to yourself. So you can lose yourself and find yourself one with others. But along that I was going to say, so I had sexual abuse from the ages of 2 to 12 by a handful of people, mostly relatives and parents. And I also came from a family, 3 generations of alcoholics, and the women were codependent. I did have some codependent traits when I was at home, not real bad. But the funny thing was, as soon as I walked out the door and took my armor off and could just go, here I am, like me or not, all those codependent traits went away. So out in the world, I didn't. But we talk about self-awareness throughout my life up until 2018. I don't know if I'd actually say I was self-aware. I I was an objective observer, but I didn't know who I was spiritually. Like, I didn't exactly know what my gift was. I knew I had a gift because people told me all the time, and my life was just very confusing because what I knew was a knowing that I didn't see any proof of. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't knowledge; it was a knowing of who I was. But then um, my life with my family, and it just contradicted. So I didn't know how spiritual I was. I don't think I actually even uttered the word God until 2018. And ironically, like, since 2018, writing to myself and going on this deep self-reflection spiritual dive, I've had 3 near-death experiences, which the first one was age 2, and it all makes sense now. Right? I'm like, now that makes sense, because people used to say I sound like Jesus. I'm like, I don't even know. I don't go to church. I've never read the Bible. What are you talking about? But it was those near-death experiences that taught me what I call now the divine heart healings, which we'll go over as this podcast. I like to introduce them. They were ways that spirit, or that voiceless voice I've heard my whole life, guided me to connect with myself so that I could feel safe with myself. But I don't necessarily, the traditional sense of love, I don't think I really love myself. I think we just need to be open to being in tune with our bodies and what's around us. Does that make sense,
It
Dale?
makes sense. It makes sense to me. And I was going to say, we have a lot of similarities. My childhood was filled with abuse, as I said, sexual, financial, physical, mental, emotional.
Yeah.
Uh, I was a trafficked child by my mother, trafficked me. My father was abusive and up till his death. So we follow a similar path. I come from about a 4 generation history of alcoholism and drug addiction. And I have one sister who passed away not in 2014 from a drug overdose.
Wow.
So it's still relevant, still in my family.
Well, and I've always seen my traumas as a gift, right? And people look at me like I'm crazy, but I I don't think I do think our traumas are given to us as a gift. It's just nobody teaches us what that voiceless voice taught me, and that was, it's not about you. It's just an experience, and how can we spin that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Dale and I have talked before that, the people who've had trauma in this world, really compassionate, the empathy, like the world needs people who've had trauma. As long the issue, I think, is no one has really known how to deal with trauma. We keep going to knowledge when in reality, trauma can rob you of your sense of self and leaves you feeling unloved and unnurtured. So why are we not nurturing and loving to heal trauma? Like, what I mean? All these different therapies that they come out with may be all well and good because they're evidence based, but they're dollar based. You know, the women that I worked with, who had trauma, I was told that they had a 30% better life outcome. I didn't do any therapies. I sat there and I went in as a woman and we talked about things and we held a space for one another. And that was how we healed, and they shifted their perception. Um, and, from my lifetime, my message, my view is we are all so overthinking stuff. Like, um, and money certainly gets in the way because it seems to be the driver for what we should be doing for one another naturally. Um, but, but yeah, I think my role in this world is to model being and how healing love can be, and not in the traditional sense. Like love, you know, someone once told me an acronym, which I asked if I could use. They said, yes, it's listening with objectivity and vulnerability to empower, you know, and that only takes to love somebody in that sense. Doesn't even take any words, it takes 5 minutes, not even. And from my own lifetime, when I would show love to strangers and they would see their light, the gift is, though, them seeing their light allowed me to see mine. And so it was a win-win. Um, Go ahead, Dale, because I could go on and on, particularly with a headache. I'm like,
Oh,
not.
yeah, I'm sorry you got that headache.
Yeah, it really takes back. So feel free to rule me in,
I,
or
uh,
when I
I
have a
think,
headache.
my background is, of course, a counselor. That means I'd use talk therapy. But my talk therapy is more on creating a safe space around us, a bubble of space around you and I individually, or in a group, a bubble, a big bubble, where you're safe.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know you're safe, and you can vent. You can, if you get angry and vent, that's perfectly okay.
yeah,
It's a part of the healing process, and it's okay. I
yeah,
don't get angry.
yeah. And I think we need what I saw too that really helped people is curiosity. Like
Hmm.
asking people open-ended questions about who they are. And to me, like I always got so excited when someone would say, oh, I never thought that before. I'm like, yes, you know. Um, and you can ask people questions you know the answers to, but it was just, yeah, it's, let's face it, right now the world's a scary place, and
Yes,
we can do this together or alone. I prefer to do it together.
I do
And
too.
yeah, and what that means really is just talking. That's it. Getting to know one another, sharing what we're feeling, so that people don't have outbursts and you don't get to a point where you've got so much trapped within you that you either totally shut down, disappear, or you explode.
Yes, I am. My heart issues are directly a result of my alcoholism.
Hmm.
Direct result. But I want to go backwards for just a second and explain that Leslie and I met through my other podcast. Uh, I don't know if she contacted me, I contacted her, I don't know. But we've had 2 interviews, and if you get the chance, take a listen to them. They're incredible podcasts, which is the reason she got to come on my show twice,
Yeah.
because there's only been 2 people on my show twice, and she's one of them. And the name of the other podcast is coffee-time-again.com. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Is that's how Leslie and I met. And during the second interview, we decided that maybe we ought to do something together. Maybe the 2 of us together can bring some healing, some love, and comfort to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my goal.
And some new insight too. And one of the things I've recently discovered, when I'd said like there's a gift of trauma, Dale and I were talking the other day, there is a neurodivinity to trauma. Um, because the trauma brain, or brain that can result when you have trauma, you can even call it like the creative brain, because most creative people I've met are, um, it is a precursor to spiritual awakening, enlightenment. And some of the experience, my traumatic brain injury was a huge gift, the way I lived my life before. But I'm finding science now that it was indeed a spiritual brain. It was a neurodivinity. And so I've seen now that I don't, when I left work, how difficult it is for people who have neurodiversity. And it's not because neurodiversity is a curse, because it's not, it's a huge gift. The curse is that the neurotypical world doesn't understand, nor do they appear to want to understand
So,
neurodiversity. And it's challenging. And I think that's a lot of the frustration, anger that just compiles on top of old trauma, you know. And so, yeah, so hopefully we're gonna, just be validating a lot of what people experience out there, trying to shift perception. And if we can't, we can hold a space for whatever is out there. I can't guarantee you that we're going to give you any solutions to long-term solve major big problems, but life is a struggle, and it's supposed to be a struggle, but we don't have to suffer. And I think that's part of the thing with trauma and neurodiversity and alcoholism and all the family issues, is that they leave us suffering, and suffering is where we get into trouble, and we don't have to suffer when we're not alone.
right, I agree with you on that 100%, Reverend Leslie. We now my brain just went south. Can you continue? Because I forgot what I was going to say, Leslie.
I can't, as I said, yeah, I was just going to say, this podcast for me was just the, I don't know about you all out there, but every day I just would go, stop, just stop, 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 stop. Like, it's, and maybe this is just the neurodiverse brain, but it's just moving too fast in directions that don't seem to make any sense. For us as a human race. Now, I have to tell you too that when I talk, part of the way my traumatic brain injury left me with, it affected my optic nerve.
Leslie, can you hold for just a minute? I got to go offline for a minute.
Sure. Do you want me to hold or keep talking?
Keep talking.
Okay.
Hi.
But the optic
I am.
allows it's a long.
And I'm with the cardiology.
Oh, okay, let me move from here.
Whoops.
You can stay there.
Oh,
It's
okay.
fine.
All right,
I just wanted to check in because Jerry, the PA here, she let me know that you were coming in with some shortness of breath and you do have some cardiac history.
yes.
So I want to hear from
Yeah.
you, what's going on and how you're feeling and what brought you in.
What brought me in was the insurance company, but to get to the main
Yeah.
factor.
I'm gonna try to
last
mute
week-
so Dale doesn't have his whole history. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I'm right in the middle of a podcast.
Dale,
A live stream.
Dale, Dale,
Of course. Are
mute
you
yourself.
still, am I still live?
Yeah, can you mute yourself? That way you can talk. Okay,
There we go. Should have muted me.
okay, cool. All right, there you go.
I thought I muted myself.
You're not muted. All right, guys, you know what? Because of this, Dale, let's hop off and we'll
All
just
right.
continue this next week. You go, your health is prime. So go
All right.
deal with your health. And folks, this was just a quick little taste. We didn't want to cancel. But because of circumstances, we're going to be back next week, Monday at noon Pacific time. So thank you all.
Thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you in 1 week.
All right, see you.
Remember that specific time. I'm telling me, not you. So
Yeah.
have a good, marvelous week, and may God be bless all of you. End it.